reading rainbow, but gayer. It's time to go to twitch.tv/proletariatprince and hit the follow button and watch the stream. And then unsubscribe to notifications so you can forget all about this. Anyway, we are gonna go full face. Can we go full face? It's kind of dark right now. Hello and welcome to the stream. I'm Proletariat Prince. I got my clunky headphones on today. I got my funny hat on today. We are gonna play Red Dead Redemption, and we are gonna hunt a bear. And while we're doing that, we got Audre Lorde's The Cancer Journal's 2nd edition. I think this is where we're gonna start. This is from the openlibrary.org. We're gonna play this while we hunt a bear in Red Dead Redemption, which is a weird combination. I know, it's a very strange combination, but I mean, that's kind of what this stream is strange combinations of things until we figure out what works. Let's get going. We are going to try to interact with NPCs and chat with NPCs as little as possible, because that's how I best concentrate when this kind of reading is going. And if I do end up in a situation where I have to talk to an NPC, I am going to try to mute her just so that I don't have to divide my attention between the two. Sometimes Zira, the screen reader, reads eyes as slash. So if it says slash, it might be an eye. And I have chocolate covered almonds. They're tasty. Those fears are most powerful when they are not given voice. Close upon their upon their heels comes the fury that I cannot shake them. I'm learning to live beyond the fear by living through it, and in the process learning to turn fury at my own limitations into some more creative energy. It's funny. That's what we're doing today. Yeah, I'm glad I picked this one as the first text. I'm glad that I picked it at all, because there's some texts where I'm like there's a lot of poetry. We're going to be reading a lot of poetry. And there's some of them where I'm just like, I don't know if they are going to be useful. Like, more than informing the science of the project, I think it really also informs the soul of the project, right? Because there is like the affinity spaces, right? Which are still a soul aspect, right? Affinity spaces are spaces you love to be, but at the same time, abolition, if we're thinking about abolition, it is also a theory of what is going on. But then it's also a projection into what could be going on. And then again, of course, affinity spaces are a projection to what could be going on as well. I don't know. The more I think about this, the more complex it becomes. And the more I realize that I can't really pin different texts into different categories because they all contribute in a variety of ways. But anyway, these lines in here sound like necropolitics, so that would be like neoliberalism, but the way that a society kind of decides who within the society is valued and who is expendable because of the nature of capital, the nature of exploitation. There always has to be somebody who can be exploited, and so broken down gods survive in the crevices and mud pots of every beleaguered city, right? This is the people who are considered expendable by the state. Our uses have become more important than our silence after the fall. Many empty cases of blood to bury or burn. Empty cases of blood that I believe that would be like a human, right? A person. There will be no body left to listen, and our labor has become more important than our silence. The system needs people to function. So whatever the system can do to just barely sustain life for people, not even sustain life for people, but to not directly lead to their death, right? That means that those people can then be used by the system to sustain itself. And so we're putting this in the context of, it's dedicated to Winnie Mandela, a South African freedom fighter who is in exile now somewhere in South Africa. She had been imprisoned and released and was picked up again after she spoke out against the recent jailing of Black school children who were singing freedom songs and who were charged with public violence. So we know that the prison industrial complex, the act of imprisonment, exists to hide away, stow away, and place in a coercible state people who are, the undesirables of this society, right? So that is, the necropolitical, right? So children are singing freedom songs and they're charged with violence, right? So singing freedom songs charged with violence, it's like terrorism. You're charged with terrorism, right? And so these crimes are like the highest of dangerous and horrible crimes, in the modern day and age of capitalism. Our labor, the extraction of labor through the prison industrial complex, has become more important than restricting freedom of speech. And I mean, we can keep going with that. We're like, because we live in a liberal society that is, of course, fundamentally, I mean, liberalism is fundamentally illiberal if you really think about it. The idea of liberty and the idea of freedom, the idea of rights, right? Human rights. These concepts are not created. I mean, of course, ostensibly they're created to apply to all individuals, but in reality, the way that liberalism is practiced, it only applies to some groups of people. So when the founding fathers were writing the Constitution, liberalism only applied to old white guys with lots of money. And gradually that was expanded to apply to other groups of people, right? However, not really. And so, we have ideas like separate but equal, which is a part of liberalism, even though, we like to think that, it's evil, racist segregation, but separate but equal, right? As long as it's equal, it's okay. That's an idea, that's a concept that comes out of liberalism. So, neoliberalism and liberalism are basically part of the same human eating machine. Capitalism, bad. Anyway, let's keep going.
A kindly Wamson from Reach for Recovery came in to see me, with a very upbeat message and a little prepared packet containing a soft sleep brought in a wad of lamb's wool pressed into a pale pink breast-shaped pad. She was 56 years old, she told me proudly. She was also a woman of admirable energies who clearly would uphold and defend to the death those structures of a society that had allowed her a little niche to shine in. Her message was, you are just as good as you were BFQR pound underscore because you can look exactly the same. Lamb's wool now, then a good prosthesis as soon as possible, and nobody 11 ever know the difference. But what she said was, you'll never know the difference, and she lost me. Right there, because I knew sure as hell PD know the difference.
How the hell would you not know the difference? That's kind of a mind fuck. Shit. You won't know, because that implies that, like, the only time your consideration of your body, your only experience of your body counts is, like, the way that other people will see it, which is, like, fully clothed, right? Like, it's like, that's so weird. That's so, like, that is a level of, like, disassociation from one's own body. That's so, oh my gosh. We're going into cinematic mode because I'm not paying attention to it. But, it's one of those things in feminism where they say that, women are trained to kind of, like, view themselves from, like, outside themselves and kind of, like, disassociate themselves from the experience of their body and into this, like, packaged, prepared image of their body that is, like, perfectly made up and, like, perfectly dressed and, like, the hair done and all that shit, right? And that image of the perfect you is the real you, right? The whole trend of the, like, no makeup, right? Where, like, your no makeup look is, like, the actual you, what your face actually looks like, right? So, like, you'll never know the difference is saying you will never know the difference between your new made up self and your old made up self. But you're definitely gonna know the difference between your experience of your body, your old experience of your body, and your new experience of your body. Oh god, that's a lot. That's a lot. Holy shit, dude.
And it doesn't really interfere with your love life, either, dear. Are you married?
Whoa, boy, yeah. Having a fake titty doesn't interfere with the pleasure of your partner. That's a lot. Oh boy.
Well, don't you worry. There's nothing I did before that I don't still do now. I just make sure I carry an extra form just in case, and I'm just like anybody else. The silicone ones serve best. What is it like to be making love to a woman and have only one breast brushing against her? I thought, how will we fit so perfectly together ever again? I thought, I wonder if our lovemaking had anything to do with it. I thought, what will it be like making love to me? Will she still find my body delicious?
What's gonna happen to the first titty? What, are you gonna lose it? Is it gonna fall out? I have concerns! In other amputations and with other prosthetic devices, function is the main point of their existence. Artificial limbs perform specific tests, allowing us to manipulate or to walk. Dentures allow us to chew our food. Only false breasts are designed for appearance only.
Because certain other people feel better with that lump stuck into my bra.
So Francis Clay, the fact that the fashion needs one-breasted women are not currently being met doesn't mean the train.
Women in public and private employment have reported the loss of jobs and promotions upon their return to work after a mastectomy, without regard to whether or not they wore prostheses. The social and economic discrimination practiced against women who have breast cancer is not diminished. Last week I read a letter from a doctor in a medical magazine which said that no truly happy person ever gets cancer. Despite my knowing better, and despite my having dealt with this blame the victim thinking for years, for a moment this letter hit my guilt button. Had I really been guilty of the crime of not being happy in this best of all possible infernos? The idea that the cancer patient should be made to feel guilty about having had cancer, as if in some way...
What? It's easier to demand happiness than to clean up the environment. There's a line from her essay, Poetry is Not a Luxury. And it's about the idea that self-care is not just about bubble baths. Self-care is about recognizing difficult truths about the world that we live in and finding a way to be with those truths and acknowledge those truths rather than deny them and pretend that everything is okay. Because the denial, like she mentioned in the first couple pages, the denial of these things that cause you harm compounds the harm. Denying that, you are in pain compounds the pain that you feel. It is easier to demand happiness. It's easier to pretend to be happy than to acknowledge the difficult truth that we have, fucked up the environment, and that's killing people.
Let us seek joy rather than real food and clean air and a saner future on a livable earth. As if
Let us seek joy rather than real food and clean air and a saner future on a livable earth. As if happiness alone can protect us from the results of profit madness. Oh my God, and she's tying it back to capitalism. I love that. The results of profit madness. Because the environment isn't fucked because, we're humans and we're awful and we like to pollute things. No, the environment is fucked because at the behest of capital, right? The environment is fucked because people who, have factories and sell things, and people who are in power who have money would rather do things the cheap way, the polluting way, the way that harms people's lives and endangers them, than a way that cares for people. The results of profit madness, the behest of capital, right? So we're gonna do Sister Outsider first.
The white Western patriarchal ordering of things requires that we believe there is an inherent conflict between what we feel and what we think between poetry and theory. We are easier to control when one part of ourselves is split from another, fragmented, off balance. There are other configurations.
Oh, we are easier to control when one part of ourselves is split from another, fragmented, off balance.
Some men and women spend their whole lives, for instance, learning and doing the infinitely slow and patient handwork of touching Persian details down in Samarkand to restore the ancient mausoleums. For within living structures defined by profit, by linear power, by institutional dehumanization, our feelings were not meant to survive. Kept around as unavoidable adjuncts or pleasant pastimes, feelings were expected to kneel to thought as women were expected to kneel to men. But women have survived.
For living structures defined by profit, by linear power, by institutional dehumanization, our feelings were not meant to survive. A person underlined that, which, that's a hell of a line, Good underline. Like with the poem, the one from the cancer journals from the Black Unicorn, how did it go? They, needed people's labor, so they got to the point where they didn't even care about their voices, right? Our feelings were not meant to survive. So the ruling experience of labor alone under capitalism is designed to kill the feelings that we have, the dreams that we have. It's designed to drain us. What are the words you do not yet have? What do you need to say? What are the tyrannies you swallow day by day and attempt to make your own until you sicken and die from them, still in silence? Perhaps for some of you here today, I am the face of one of your fears because I'm a woman, because I'm black, because I'm lesbian, because I am myself, a black woman, warrior poet, doing my work. I'm to ask you, are you doing yours? We can learn to work and speak when we are afraid in the same way we have learned to work and speak when we are tired. For we have been socialized to respect fear more than our own needs for language and definition. And while we wait in silence for that final luxury of fearlessness, the weight of that silence will choke us. That's a really, of course I keep saying, oh my God, that's so intense. Oh my God, that's so intense. But no, I do think that, there's times when the fear that we have about taking action prevents us from taking action, prevents us from contemplating action. And of course, when we hold ourselves back, when we wait until we're not afraid anymore, we are not letting ourselves be who we need to be, or do what we need to do, or experience what we need to experience.
Relations
I
sometimes
actually
mount as
really
desirable during the
like,
60s.
I just want to take a
This was a
moment
time when the myth of the black
to
matriarchy
say
was
that
a
I
social...
really like that definition of homophobia, the fear of feelings of love for members of one's own sex, and therefore the hatred of those feelings in others. And I do not want to equivocate this with all homophobic people are gay. But all homophobic people do fear homosexuality inside their own selves, right? And their fear of homosexuality and their own selves is projected onto gay people and their hatred for gay people. So, like, while gay or homophobic people are not all secretly gay, they do hate gay people because they are afraid of being gay. That's why they talk about it in language like the promise of the gay agenda or whatever is so seductive. The promise of being able to choose your gender is like a cupcake. It's so seductive. It's so sexy. It's so, enticing. It's going to entice you over to the other side. It's like an addiction. You can't escape it, right? So the fear of feelings of love for members of one's own sex, right? And therefore the hatred of those feelings in others. It is about 10 o'clock. I'm feeling kind of tired. It's been 4 hours and 33 minutes. We've got about half of this book left, but I'm going to call it. Anyways, howdy. This is day 2 of my annotated bibliography reading stream. I refilled my soap, and I had a purple soap and a blue soap, and they're like different brands. And so the soaps didn't mix. It just like the blue one, the purple one was already in there, but the blue one I poured it on top. And the blue one formed like a bubble in the middle of the purple one. And it's still like it's over there, and all of the purple is like slowly rising to the top while the blue is sinking to the bottom. But for a while there was like a bubble of blue in the middle of the bottle, and it was really weird. Something to do with density, I think. Anyway, too often that's what happens when the worship of rationality and the circular academic analytic thinking. Ultimately, I don't see feel/think as a dichotomy. Oh my god, that's I was thinking about this the guy who did the hurt people speech. I've talked about this before, like in other contexts, but I don't know if I've talked about it here. But hurt people guy. Basically, his whole shtick is how do we apply abolitionist, not really abolitionist theory, right? But abolitionist practices in the classroom, right? And so feel/think. Another one that he would always say is your reality is what you know. So your reality, what is real to you, is only composed of things that you know, things that you have experienced, right? So the things that you think are informed by the things that you feel, and the things that you feel are informed by the things that you think. You are what you know. I see them as a choice of ways and combinations. Love that. I love that.
But once you get there, only you know what will be for as you search for it and perhaps find it.
Hello?
You a bounty hunter?
Well, not right now, I ain't. You Black Belle? I'd like to talk to you about your Wild West days.
I don't care much for reminiscing. Got any friends as bounty hunters?
None that spring to mind.
Well, then you done led them boys here and you none the wiser. Yeah, if it's just me against them, that'd be a waste of time and nitroglycerin.
Well, let me know what I can do.
All right, get up here quick. Now when I give you the word, hit that. Whole place is wired.
I got a contract here for your life or your liberty. We'd sooner it be liberty.
That's mighty reasonable, mister. Come here, let me take a look at it.
Fuck, I'm getting hit from all sides. Shit, oh, it's the gun. It's the gun. There we go. Detonate it. That's not gonna help, is it? Oh, beautiful.
Okay, I got it.
I like
And
her.
I guess I'll be on my way.
There. Well, thank you, Mrs. Bell. You gonna be all right?
Oh, been running for 20 years. Suppose I'll be running till I drop. Just the way it is.
Good luck.
I love her. I want to marry her. Anyway, let's get back
So at
to
certain
it.
stages that request for documentation is a blinder, a questioning of my perceptions. The Master's tools will never dismantle the Master's house. ***. I agreed to take part in a New York University Institute for the Humanities conference a year ago, with the understanding that I would be
Okay.
commenting upon papers dealing with the
So
role of
this
different...
is one that, I mean, I'm gonna say people like to throw it around. I don't necessarily mean that in like they're misusing it. I mean that in the like people say this a lot. It's a very important phrase. So we're gonna, I'm really
Audre,
interested
that's right. The
in
Master's tools will never
finally
dismantle...
reading this piece.
It is learning how to take our differences and make them strengths. For the Master's tools will never dismantle the Master's house. They may allow us temporarily to beat him at his own
Hold
game,
on.
but they will never enable us to bring about genuine change.
Hold on, she said it. It's learning how to take our differences and make them strengths, for the Master's tools will never dismantle the Master's house. They may allow us to temporarily beat him at his own game, but they will enable us to bring about genuine change. Learning how to stand alone, unpopular, and sometimes reviled, and how to make a common cause with those others identified outside the structures of spiritual. Survival is not an academic skill. And this fact is only threatening to those women who still define the Master's house as their only source of support. I'm having a moment here, okay? I'm having a moment here. This is intense. This is intense. As women, we have been taught either to ignore our differences or to view them as causes for separation and suspicion rather than as forces for change. Without community, there is no liberation, only the most vulnerable and temporary armistice between an individual and her oppression. But community must not mean a shedding of our differences, nor the pathetic pretenses that those differences do not exist. The bulk of this is about the difference between white feminism, right, and I mean, I say black feminism, but there's also, women of color feminism, intersectional feminism, all of these different words fall under the same umbrella, right? So for the Master's tools will never dismantle the Master's house is about that fundamental difference between things that help you get ahead under capitalism and things that dismantle the oppression we face under capitalism and resulting in the abolition, the end of capitalism. How this is how I'm reading this. I mean, it's how I always read it. It's how I always read it. But it's nice. It's nice to go in there. It's always nice. It's always important to go to the source. Theory in the flesh. What do they mean? Within their context, within the place, their space where they were born, right? Because that's what we really do need to know. Because the guiding posts for my channel and what I want this to be. If one of it's going to be Master's Tools, Master's House, right? And we need to know what that means. We need to know the substance of that. And it's always important to remember that these things do have substance. These little slogans that we say, they do have substance. And we need to know that. We need to be educated on. We need to be prepared to educate other people on them. And so yeah, this is really cool. The poor energy needed for recognizing and exploring difference into pretending those differences are insurmountable barriers. Difference is not an insurmountable barrier. And difference does exist. Well, I mean, okay. This is, when we're talking about this here, we're using human difference as a springboard for creative change, right? The class is called Reading Historically. We're talking about, counter histories, the way that history is not just a list of dates. There are all sorts of different people out there who, had different experiences at different periods of time. And the way that we need to understand history is through difference, through counter history, right? We have the narrative, right? We have the big narrative. We have the narrative of, Western progress, right? But then we have the counter narrative, right? And the counter narrative is that we legalized gay marriage in 2008 only to make trans people illegal in a whole bunch of states in 2023. American schools are just as segregated as they were at the height of segregation. Are we really progressing? Is the question. Are we really moving forward? Are we really, or as counter history would tell us, is the American progress, is American history a lot more fraught, complicated, kind of fucked up, really fucked up, actually really, really, really fucked up than we, have been led to think. Exploring difference, right? Exploring counter stories, exploring silence. That's another big one. Exploring silences. Because silences are often not, it's not that nobody was speaking, right? It's that people who were speaking were silenced. If we think about the war on drugs, right? The history of the war on drugs. We had, the hippies, and we had the, like the Black Panthers, we had MLK, we had the civil rights movement leaders, right? And so how do we stop these people from, advocating for civil rights for people? Well, we criminalize them through the war on drug, and then we associate these different groups with these different drugs. So exploring difference, not pretend that differences are insurmountable barriers. Don't pretend that just because you don't understand where someone's coming from, that you can't. And always remember that we only know what we know. We only know what we've experienced. We only know our own perspective. We do not understand the perspective of others. And it's much more difficult to tease out those experiences, those understandings, than it is to pretend that they are insurmountable and that they don't exist. But if we want to have real change, if we want to do something in this world, we got to do the hard shit. Cosmetically altered repetitions of the same old exchanges. Okay, so my professor from the reading historically class says this thing. I'm out here. I'm like, everything's exactly the same and nothing changes. And she's like, I mean, it does change though. And I'm like, true. What has this week given you? I asked. The most vocal white woman says, I think I've gotten a lot. I feel Black women really understand me a lot better now. They have a better idea of where I'm coming from. As if understanding her lay at the core of the racist problem. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that there. This is not a reason for despair, nor for rejection of the importance of those years. But we must face with clarity and insight the lessons to be learned with oversimplification of any struggle for self-awareness and liberation, or we will not rally the force we need to face the multidimensional threats to our survival. We thought in 2015. Well, I don't think we thought, but I think a lot of people led us to believe that was the end of the gay marriage, the gay equality, the gay rights. That was the end of the gay rights shit, right? We don't have to worry about that no more. I have had people say to me that queer people in America are no longer, marginalized or whatever they say. We're no longer at risk. And I will absolutely say that white queer people living on the coast, we don't got much to worry about, right? Especially if you're gender conforming. We thought that it was over when gay marriage was legalized. But now, come to find out, trans rights have been under attack in so many states. And now, come to find out, the Supreme Court is like, maybe it's time to reconsider gay marriage. We must recognize that many of our high expectations of rapid revolutionary change did not in fact occur. We need to recognize that right now. And many of the gains that did are even now being dismantled. They are. This is not a reason for despair. A lot of people out there who are terrified of what's to come next. This is not a reason for despair. This is not the end. Nor for the rejection of the importance of those years. That was a big win. Very important. But we must face with clarity and insight the lessons to be learned from the oversimplification of any struggle for self-awareness and liberation. It's not just about getting married. It's not just about getting married. We will not rally the force we need to face the multi-dimensional threats to our survival. We make little gains. We make tiny gains. We make infinitesimal gains. But those little gains that we make mean all the world to us in the moment. But we cannot calm down. We cannot take a step back. We cannot let go. We cannot let the momentum fizzle, because the steps that we have taken are not enough to cement that change, because those things that we have gained can always be taken away. So we can never stop fighting. We share a common interest, survival, and it cannot be pursued in isolation from others simply because their differences make us uncomfortable. We know what it is to be lied to. The 60s should teach us how important it is not to lie to ourselves, not to believe that revolution is a one-time event or something that happens around us rather than inside of us. Not to believe that freedom can belong to any one group of us without the others also being free. How important it is not to allow even our leaders to define us to ourselves, or to define our sources of power to us. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, damn! Revolution will not be televised. It is not something that happens around us, something that happens inside of us. Freedom cannot belong to any one group of us without the others also being free.
Woman, working her years, committed to life as she lives it. The children fed and clothed and loved as she can, into some strength that does not allow them to insist like horse chestnuts. Build them or
When
eventually
did I
send them into the
last
deathlands.
save? Holy
The White Labyrinth.
shit!
Thanksgiving Day table.
This is what happens when you're paying too much attention to the book you're reading and not enough to the game you're playing. It's a delicate balancing act. I lost my hat, dang it! Reading Rainbow, but gayer.